Nobody wants to admit it out loud yet, but the uncomfortable truth is starting to creep in. The Philadelphia Eagles are becoming that team again. The one nobody wants to see once the calendar flips to January. The one that doesn't wow you on highlight reels every Sunday, but quietly suffocates you over 4 quarters. The one that drags you into a street fight and dares you to blink first. And that's what makes this conversation so volatile right now. Because just weeks ago, people were lining up to bury this offense, to question Jalen Hurts, to say the magic was gone, the line was slipping, the identity was broken, and suddenly, after 2 wins that nobody wants to fully respect, the same voices are nervously hedging, because deep down they know something dangerous is forming. This isn't about style points, it's about inevitability, and the Eagles are flirting with the exact version of themselves that terrifies playoff opponents. They're winning ugly, winning boring, winning without apology, and history says that's when they're most lethal. The controversy isn't whether they look pretty enough or explosive enough. It's whether the league is once again underestimating a team that understands its formula better than anyone else. Because when a group with championship pedigree stops chasing public approval and starts leaning into what actually works, that's when the shift happens. Quietly at first, then all at once. People are laughing off the Raiders' win, dismissing the Commanders' game, rolling their eyes at the numbers. But the Eagles don't need your validation. They just need rhythm, health, and belief. And those 3 things are lining up at the exact moment when everyone else is distracted by flashier stories. That's why the tone around this team feels so tense, because you can sense the fear underneath the skepticism. The realization that Philly doesn't need to dominate December headlines to dominate January games. They just need to be themselves again. And that possibility alone is enough to make the NFC nervous. Here's why this story has exploded right now, and why Stephen A's words are landing with so much weight. The Eagles just put together back-to-back wins, including a 31-0 blowout of the Raiders and a 29-18 victory over the Commanders. Games where the offense didn't reinvent itself but recommitted to its core principles. Jalen Hurts threw 2 touchdowns, the run game accounted for 2 more, and the Eagles tied their highest offensive output of the season with 385 yards, all while leaning into a low-risk, high-reward approach that prioritizes control over chaos. This matters because it comes at a time when Philadelphia is on the verge of repeating as NFC East champions, something that hasn't happened in over 2 decades, and because the playoffs are looming with questions swirling about who you can actually trust. This isn't just about wins, it's about identity, confidence, and timing. And if you want to stay locked in as this narrative keeps evolving, make sure you subscribe to the channel and leave a like, because this conversation is only getting louder. What Stephen A. and the panel are really tapping into isn't just optimism, it's recognition. Recognition that the Eagles have stopped trying to be something they're not. The most revealing comment in this entire discussion is that winning for Philly doesn't have to be sexy. That admission cuts against everything modern football culture obsesses over: explosive plays, eye-popping stats, viral highlights. But the Eagles' formula has never been about that at its core. It's about defense setting the tone, controlling the trenches, and letting the quarterback weaponize his legs at the right moments rather than forcing the issue. When you hear it described as boring, that's not an insult. That's a warning. Boring football frustrates opponents because it limits opportunities, shortens games, and turns every mistake into a crisis. The significance of getting Lane Johnson back at right tackle and Jalen Carter returning can't be overstated within this context, because those aren't just good players, they're tone setters. Their presence reinforces exactly what this team wants to be: physical, disciplined, and unapologetically methodical. Add in the renewed emphasis on the run game with Saquon and Bigsby, and suddenly the Eagles aren't chasing balance for balance's sake, they're dictating terms. The shift into empty sets to give Hurts clearer reads isn't about showcasing his arm. It's about empowering his decision-making, spreading the defense thin, and forcing opponents to choose between coverage integrity and open running lanes. That's not flashy, but it's devastating when executed consistently. The comparison to past championship runs is where this conversation gets uncomfortable for skeptics. The reminder that teams don't always look dominant heading into the playoffs, that confidence can be built quietly against imperfect opponents, hits closer to home than people want to admit. The dismissive takes are predictable. The Raiders are bad. The Commanders were shorthanded. The urgency wasn't there, but that misses the point entirely. Confidence doesn't care about narratives, it cares about repetition and belief. Winning games, even against flawed teams, reinforces trust between players and coaches, especially when a new offensive coordinator is still establishing identity. That's the subtext people are glossing over. This offense has been searching for itself all season, and now, late in the year, it's settling into something it believes in. The numbers around Hurts over the last 2 games tell a story without needing embellishment. 5 total touchdowns, 0 interceptions, increased involvement as a runner, and a clear comfort level operating out of spread looks where he can diagnose coverage pre-snap. This isn't about turning him into a running back. It's about using his mobility as a pressure release valve. When defenses commit resources to A.J. Brown and Devonta Smith, when they follow those receivers across the formation, they're creating space by default. Hurts seeing that space and taking it on his terms is the difference between reckless scrambling and calculated damage. That distinction is critical as the playoffs approach because the margin for error shrinks, and quarterbacks who can create without forcing throws become invaluable. Still, the skepticism isn't baseless, and that's what gives this debate its edge. There's a valid hesitation about crowning this offense based on wins against struggling opponents. The Raiders' game was a mismatch, the Commanders' game was chaotic, and it's fair to want proof against a higher caliber of competition. The upcoming matchup with Buffalo looms as a measuring stick, not because of seeding implications, but because of stylistic contrast. Can the Eagles run the ball effectively against a team that prides itself on physicality? Can their defensive front hold up against a legitimate run game? These questions aren't about redemption, they're about readiness. The point about using these final weeks as playoff rehearsals cuts to the heart of veteran teams. By this stage of the season, experimentation becomes strategic. You're not just trying to win, you're testing concepts, stress testing tendencies, and sharpening details against looks you expect to see in January. That's why the emphasis on Hurts's rushing attempts matters. 10 designed or opportunistic runs per game isn't about volume, it's about presence. It forces defenses to account for him on every snap, complicates coverage rules, and creates hesitation. But it also comes with risk, and the acknowledgement of that risk shows maturity. The goal isn't to expose your quarterback to unnecessary hits. It's to maximize his influence while minimizing danger. The looming reality of the playoff matchup adds another layer of intrigue. As the likely 3 seed, the Eagles are staring at an NFC West opponent in the first round, a scenario that offers no comfort. Those teams bring physical fronts, varied schemes, and playoff-tested resilience. There will be no easing into January football. That's why what the Eagles are doing now isn't about impressing analysts. It's about survival prep. The idea that they could be a tough out without being favorites perfectly captures their position. They don't need to be dominant. They need to be disciplined. The concerns about the offensive line linger for a reason. For years, that unit has been the engine of everything Philadelphia does, and any perceived decline invites scrutiny. There's skepticism that the line can simply flip a switch and return to elite form, and that skepticism is healthy. But it doesn't negate the broader truth that the Eagles don't require perfection up front to win playoff games. They require cohesion, clarity, and timely execution. If the line can be functional rather than dominant, the rest of the formula still holds. This is where Stephen A's assertion that the Eagles will be scary in the playoffs finds its footing. Scary doesn't mean unstoppable. It means unpredictable, resilient, and unafraid. It means a team that understands how to win when conditions aren't ideal, a team that can absorb punches without panicking, and a team that doesn't beat itself. That's the version of Philadelphia that nobody wants to draw on wildcard weekend. Not because they guarantee a loss, but because they guarantee discomfort. The broader media narrative will continue to swing wildly based on weekly results, but the Eagles' internal narrative feels far more stable. They're not chasing the ghosts of last season's explosiveness. They're building something tailored to who they are right now. That acceptance is powerful. When players believe in the plan and coaches trust the players to execute it, the noise fades. That's when teams become dangerous, not because they dominate headlines, but because they dominate moments. As January approaches, the question isn't whether the Eagles are back to being the team everyone feared last year. It's whether they're becoming a different kind of threat. one built on patience, control, and hard-earned confidence. If they are, then the rest of the NFC has a problem, because teams like that don't need momentum to scare you. They just need opportunity, and the Eagles are lining themselves up to seize it.